Добрый день, everyone. Welcome to the second annual ProductCamp Lviv. As you might be able to tell, my Ukrainian is so good. You just heard me demonstrate my great Ukrainian. You might be confused if I'm Ukrainian or American, but in fact I am American, but I feel very Ukrainian because as the CEO of SoftServe and with our locations all throughout Ukraine, Bulgaria and Poland, it's really my honor to speak to you guys about something that I'm very, very passionate about. I'm only going to speak for a few minutes, tell you a couple stories, and if we have time, I'd like to answer a couple questions. That's something that I always like to do, is hear from you, and it's consistent with this conference about what we talk about. But I'm passionate about product management. Product management, it's like, why? Why am I passionate about that? Well, I'm a software engineer. I've started 7 companies in my life, all with very successful outcomes. My first company I started was me, and I was writing in C, and I was writing a billing system, and now I'm fortunate to run a company that has almost 4,000 associates. We have 150 clients. We write some amazing code for a lot of people. But I believe what made me successful and my career successful and my company successful was just this common reason. I was a technical person in a business world. I could connect those two worlds that most people couldn't connect. I could understand what the business requirements were, not the technical requirements, and then I could develop the technical requirements from there. Let me start off by saying, if you want to make money, if you want to feel like that you've done something special in the world, if you want to feel like you're leading the charge and not just, following, then become a product manager. Because that is, and I'm going to say this 10 times today, it's the intersection between the people who have the money and the people that write the code. That intersection, right? I mean, Steve Jobs at Apple, he famously said that Apple sits at the intersection of art and technology, right? I mean, which he was right. I paid $400 for this thing that has almost the same functionality as a $100 Android version. Apple sat at that intersection. So here's the thing I want you to take away from today. Product management sits at the intersection between business and technology, right at that intersection there. Does anybody have any idea how many developers there are in Ukraine or in Lviv? Maybe 9,000, 10,000? Maybe in Ukraine, 50,000? In all of Ukraine? In Lviv? How many product managers do you think there are?
Enormous amount.
We've been investing in product managers very heavily because this is one of the fastest growing areas for our clients. But why? Why is it a fast growing area? Everything, as you know, everything these days has software in it. Name a product that doesn't have software in it. I'm sorry? Maybe this bottle of water, maybe the pencil that's in my pocket, but I expect that my pencil will probably have IoT connectivity in a couple years, Everything has software in it. Yeah, and so does the bottle, that's right. You've got IoT connected water bottles today already. So there's this huge growth in software engineering everywhere, and figuring out how to take those business requirements and connect them to the product requirements, the technical requirements. Product managers are at the intersection of business and technology. I'm going to keep saying that. I want you to keep thinking about it. But traditionally, 5 years ago, oh, no, we could never outsource our product management. No, we could never let somebody else try to understand our business. That has changed, period. That has changed. First, it's not just I'm building a product for the United States or I'm building a product for Germany. You're building products globally. Everybody is building products globally, especially software products. So the world is now the market. So Why can't you have product management global like you have products that are global? And you can. I mean, we see this in the US all the time, that people are now willing to let other people globally think about their product management. But there's another problem, which is you can't hire product managers. They're not available. I got a phone call this last Monday. This is a true story. I got a phone call from Monday. I was in Toronto. It was an old colleague of mine. He called me and he said, hey, I just took over this business. It's a small business, a software as a service business, where they perform some special tracking for special parcels that are sent through different systems. So they've got a website and data feeds that come in and support all this stuff. And he was incredibly frustrated because he took over the business. He's not technical. He's a business owner. He's a few years older than me. He knows how to run business. He prides himself in running the business. And he felt like a baby, out of control, because he had 3 developers. He was paying lots of money to them. Let's just say it's $300,000 or so. And he had a server rack, and he had a generator to back up the server rack. And he's like, the generator maintenance is costing me money. And I'm thinking to him, have you ever heard of AWS? Have you ever heard of that? And he's like, no, never heard of it. And he was calling because he was desperate. He sat on the business side, the developers sat over here, and nobody was sitting in the intersection of those two. And he's spending $500,000 on this small business, and he's out of control. The software is terrible. It's been hacked on for 5 years. It still runs on a 640 by 480 screen type. He's losing customers, and he's desperate. He doesn't know what to do. What is he looking for? Who does he really need? He needs a product manager, right? Somebody at that intersection who can learn from his business and bring it to the technology, the technical requirements, talk to him about the modern way that this should be built. So this is just one small company that exists south of Chicago. There are thousands and thousands of small companies like that. There are hundreds and hundreds of major companies that have multiple versions of those problems. But that's just a setup for what I want to say next, which is the most important part about what I want to convey to you is that if you take a job as a product manager, if you put yourself in that role, think about the experiences that you're going to gain. Think about what happens to your career when you put yourself at that intersection of business and technology. So certainly you're going to be traveling all over the world, trying to understand markets, understand how people make money. You're going to understand the business models that make people successful, and you're going to be in control of success. Which, let me tell you, that's a scary thing. You're responsible for success. I know what that feels like every day, as the CEO of this company. It's sometimes a very nervous thing to do. But when you have those experiences, think about what your next career step can be, what it could be, where you could go in your career. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity, but you have to find yourself in that intersection point, just like Apple did. So let me just quickly summarize, and then I have time for a couple questions. So product management is the intersection of business and technology. There's a huge need for this role. It gives you an amazing set of experiences which allows your career to accelerate more than any other role that I can think of. So it's a very exciting area. I'm really happy to see you all here for this. Shows a lot of interest, and particularly here in Ukraine. So I want to move from why to how. And Matt McBride is going to take us through design thinking, design first, how design matters in product management. Because if you don't think like Matt thinks, you're not going to be successful in the modern world as it goes. So he's going to give you a great presentation. I know you're going to have a great conference. I know you're going to pick some great topics and have some great conversations. Please keep SoftServe in mind as you think about your careers and where you go. But thank you for your time this morning. I do have a couple minutes, and I'd like to take a couple questions. And I will sit here uncomfortably until I get a couple questions. So please, somebody start us off. I'm real good at sitting here quietly. Questions? Yes, thank you. Is there a mic you can hand her?
I can.
Okay.
So it's okay. My question is, my name is Ina. The question is, I say that you have 16 product managers currently, and the question is actually how often all of them prepare cost-benefit analysis for your clients?
Roman, do you want to take that question? It's a good question. I just want to be able to answer if somebody knows the answer.
Almost every time. The question is that there are different ways how to do it, and the typical problem I think that I suspect why you're asking this question is because you don't have enough authority about doing this stuff, and this is customer's business, and he don't like to share, and etc. It's all about the value which you bring. If you are the product managers, as Chris mentioned, you are in the intersection of the business and the technology, and there is definitely something, the value that you can bring to this company. And if you really bring in, and your customer in that case, see that value, he is open to share you, even the P&L, even his strategic customers, and even going with him for other, I would say, investors and other things. So I personally took a couple of the discussions, for example, with the investors, with the potential investors for our customers to convince them by providing some input that our customers wasn't able to do it.
I just want to add to that it is a combination of both the technical analysis of what makes sense and building trust with the business owner, right? There's personal relations that have to go on with there. So that's a constant evolving skill set that you need to learn to be able to bring confidence to it. Because I'll tell you, their fear is that you spent 15 minutes on Google before you had the phone call. That's their fear. And you can't do that. So the question, if everyone heard, is can a product manager be successful if they don't have a technical background? Yes, they can, right? It's easier if they do. But we're really converting business problems and business value to technical requirements. So partner up a product manager with a BA like yourself, and that translation can happen pretty quickly as it goes. You'll be stronger if you can cover the whole gamut, especially in a small company, because they don't want to pay for two people. But in a large company, all those layers will exist as they go down. So absolutely, and some of the best product manager I've seen. So just a side story, we were at a big customer in Canada earlier this week, and one of our client success leaders, Alex Chubai, sat at breakfast and he just said, diversity, innovation comes from diversity. Innovation comes from diversity, right? Matt here is an artist. This is diversity. This is where innovation comes. People who don't have the technical expertise can be diverse and therefore bring lots of innovation. Because sometimes knowing too much about technology closes your mind to what's possible. So I really believe that some of the best people I've seen are the people that are part of a diverse team, because that drives a lot of innovation. Good question. One more question, please, and then I got to hand it over to Matt. Yes.
How are you going to develop product managers?
How do we develop product managers? That's a very, that's part of our secret sauce at SoftServe is how we do that. So, so Roman leads this for us, and Roman, why don't you give him a couple comments about how you do that?
It's a miracle. Yeah, so I had a very good wording, for example, so when there is something happens successfully, for example, so typically the guys who drive the success always saying that was always the miracle. And it's tough task from the competencies, from the learning program, from the certification, from other things, this is very hard to understand because you cannot make somebody, for example, and learn him to be and teach him to be the product manager. The major thing that we are looking in the candidates for the product manager is the passion to be the product managers. This is the major thing that this person should be driven by this idea that he would like to bring the value to the customer. And how to utilize his own experience, is it technical, business analysis experience, marketing experience, sales experience, whatever, for example, so to bring the value to the customers in terms of of building the new product. And our goal as product managers is to build the products that people love. That's the major goal of this. That's actually the typical, as I said, the major idea is really to be the passionate about that. Of course, you will have the knowledge, you will be utilizing that, you can learn something, but the major idea is really be passionate.
That's a great answer. It really is you, right? It's you waking up in the morning and saying, I know what to do here, right? A follow-up question?
Yeah. You've been here for a couple of years, right, in Ukraine?
Almost 5 years.
Okay, 5 years in Ukraine. You know the Ukrainians pretty much well, right?
I do.
So what would be the first focus for Ukrainian team in terms of our mind? I know that product manager has to have a comprehensive knowledge in technology and business, right? But when we talk about Ukrainians, your first comment, what would be like, if I want to be a product manager, what would be the first thing I need to focus or pay my attention to or change my behavior, my soft skills or whatever? What would be the first, if you can differentiate Ukrainians with the rest of the world, what would be the first thing to change or focus on my role?
Did everybody hear his question? So what's the first thing that you change, especially for Ukrainians, to be good product managers? So let's just start with what makes a good product manager, right? What makes a good product manager? And I can say this as a business owner prior to being part of SoftServe, prior to being Ukraine, in that you want to have the confidence that you're working with somebody who's smart, somebody who's passionate, and somebody who's listening. Because as a business owner, you don't have a lot of time, and you want to be able to convey a couple important points that are there. So as I overlay Ukrainians on top of those kind of 3 requirements, I don't have any problem with the smart thing, right? Everybody in this room is smart. This is a very, very smart country, and everybody gets that in the world. There's not an issue around that. Being able to listen and not feeling the need to prove yourself too quickly, and being able to, soft skills, you might describe it as soft skills, it's just more as really giving a sense that I'm here to help you, trust me, build a relationship with that person. And that if you have to prove how smart you are every time, that doesn't work, right? It's being a well-rounded individual who's passionate about what they do. Passion breaks through all barriers, right? If you're like, I want to make this successful because this helps me in my career, it helps you in your business. So there's nothing about Ukrainians that I go, there's a problem here, time out, this isn't going to work. This is why we're investing so heavily in it. But just as I listened to you ask the question, great English skills, you're able to exude confidence in the situation, you can listen, you're listening right now, here's a great product manager. That's it, right? So keep doing those things. And it's just, you got to be confident. It's no different than any job, right? Be confident and go into it. And when you do, you'll be successful and you'll figure it out. And my whole life, I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and think, if I could just do this, have that passion and drive, and you'll be wildly successful. Because the secret sort of that nobody gets is there's a huge demand for this. So even people that aren't mature in their product management skills, there's still a demand, and you'll be given the opportunity, and then you'll grow. That's the wonderful situation about this intersection right now. You're intersecting technology and business. The timing is such that the demand is so great that you're going to intersect with growing your skills to get there. So I'm sorry I don't have a single point answer, but hopefully that kind of gets to it. Sure.
I'll talk loud, and then I don't want to take this from you. I gotta go anyway. So what I was gonna say is, can you hear me now? I don't think it's necessarily a concern about being Ukrainian. I think what really helps with product management is, I think it's a shift in the mindset up from outsourcing to where you're not just receiving requirements, and it's more about having a point of view and being able to recommend requirements. I think that's the real pivot that needs to happen. And I think that's really where that confidence that Chris is talking about really comes into play, is having the confidence to recommend requirements and recommend solutions rather than just trying to ask for requirements and ask exactly what people want. It's telling people what they need. I think that's the difference.
I want to add one more thing. That brings up a great point here.
It's okay, I'm gonna switch.
Being able to make those recommendations. Being able to make those recommendations is that there's a unique time right now in addition to the demand, which is design first, thinking about design, right? In the old days, you could be a product manager, and it was pretty simple. What are we going to build? How many are we going to build? Blah, 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 blah. Well, today, when you approach it from thinking about the user experience, about the customer's journey, about the map of all the things that have to happen, there's a revolution coming on how we think about designing product. And Matt's going to talk about some of that. There is a revolution. When I talk to clients every week, they want to know how we're going to take a very different approach to building and managing their products. So guess what? That skill set doesn't really exist. It exists at IBM. Matt came from IBM. IBM's leading the charge on how to designing around that. But suddenly it's a level playing field because everybody's trying to figure out how to do design first and figure out how to bring a different way of thinking about the requirements for the products. So suddenly all the advantages of, oh, well, we know how to do it, we're local, those have flattened because there's a new way to think about how product management works. So I'm probably repeating much of what Matt said, and being able to make those recommendations in the new world of the new process of figuring it out. But I think you'll understand more after you hear his presentation. So, okay, so we'll pass it over to Matt. Have a great conference. Thank you very much for coming. I really enjoyed talking to you.